Imagine waking up every day with complete control over your actions, your choices, and your results. What if the key to success wasn't luck, connections, or timing, but leading yourself first? In this audiobook, you'll discover exactly how to take charge of your habits, your emotions, and your decisions so that success stops being something you chase and starts being something you create. You'll learn practical steps to build discipline, remove distractions, set clear boundaries, and develop confidence that lasts, even when motivation fades. Every chapter is designed to help you grow stronger, smarter, and more consistent in the actions that truly shape your life. Stay with this video and you'll walk away with tools to improve daily, make better choices, and see real progress toward your goals. Subscribe for more content like this to keep building the life you want. Number 1. Build habits that shape discipline. Discipline does not appear out of nowhere. It grows in the small choices a person makes every day, long before anyone else notices a change. Building habits that shape discipline begins with understanding that your actions are the real proof of what you value. Many people wait for the perfect moment, the right motivation, or a feeling of readiness before they start working on themselves. The truth is simpler than that. Discipline is not built in moments of inspiration. It is built in moments where you choose progress over comfort, even in the smallest way. When you begin shaping habits that support your growth, you lay the foundation for a life where success naturally follows your effort. Consistency becomes your anchor, and self-respect becomes the result. A disciplined life begins with clarity. When you wake up with no intention, your day gets pulled in every direction. But when you create a habit of setting simple intentions, even if they are small, you take control of your direction. A habit as simple as asking yourself what matters most today can create a powerful shift. This shift is not dramatic. It feels subtle, almost unnoticeable, but over time it strengthens your mind. It reminds you that you are not driven by impulse or distraction. You are choosing every step. Habits shape discipline because they remove the constant pressure of decision-making. When something becomes a habit, it becomes automatic. You no longer need to argue with yourself about whether you should do it. You simply do. Think about how much energy is lost each day because of hesitation, whether it is exercise, reading, working on a skill, or planning your future. Hesitation steals time and drains your willpower. But when you build a habit, the action becomes part of who you are. You stop fighting with yourself. You start building momentum. A disciplined person is not someone with extraordinary strength. A disciplined person is someone who understands how important small daily actions are. Success is not built with giant steps. It is built with steps that seem small but repeated many times. Every time you follow a good habit, you reinforce the type of person you want to be. You prove to yourself that you keep promises. You build trust with yourself. This inner trust is powerful because once you have it, it becomes natural to follow through with bigger responsibilities. Discipline grows when you remove unnecessary complications. Many people fail because they try to take on too much at once. They overwhelm themselves with plans, targets, and expectations. A better approach is simple. Pick 1 or 2 habits that matter and commit to them. Do not worry about perfection. Focus on consistency. If your goal is to read more, start with a few pages a day. If your goal is to improve your health, begin with a short walk. If your goal is to grow mentally, spend a few minutes each morning reflecting on your choices. These small actions may feel insignificant, but they shape your mind. They teach you how to show up for yourself. It is important to understand that discipline is created through repetition, not emotion. You may not feel like doing something every day. That is normal. Feelings change constantly. They are not a reliable guide, but habits give you structure. Structure supports you even when you are tired or unmotivated. This is why disciplined people appear strong. Their strength does not come from constant motivation. It comes from systems they built to guide their behavior. There will be days when your discipline is tested. Days when you feel stressed, confused, or discouraged. On these days, habits matter even more. A strong habit will hold you steady when everything around you feels uncertain. Even if your effort feels smaller than usual, doing the habit keeps your momentum alive. One of the greatest mistakes people make is breaking their routine during difficult moments. They stop because they feel drained, and once they stop, restarting becomes harder. A simple action, even at half strength, is more powerful than stopping completely. To build habits that shape discipline, start by identifying what truly matters to you. Most people choose habits based on what others are doing instead of what they actually need. Discipline is personal. It is connected to your purpose, your goals, and the kind of person you want to become. When your habits align with your values, they feel meaningful. When they feel meaningful, you are more likely to continue them. Once you identify the right habits, remove the excuses that prevent you from following them. Create an environment where the habit is easy to start. If you want to eat healthier, place better food options where you can see them. If you want to write more, keep a notebook within reach. If you want to improve your knowledge, reduce the time you spend in mindless scrolling. Environment plays a huge role in discipline. A supportive environment reduces friction. Less friction means fewer excuses. Another important part of shaping discipline is tracking your progress. You do not need complicated systems. A simple record of your daily actions helps you see your effort clearly. When you track your progress, you stay aware of your behavior. You notice patterns. You learn what works and what needs improvement. Tracking keeps you accountable. It gives you evidence that you are moving forward. When you see your progress, you feel encouraged to continue. There will be moments when you feel like your habits are not making a difference. This is normal. Growth is not always visible. Discipline builds silently. Even when you cannot see change, something is happening inside you. You are strengthening your mind. You are learning self-control. You are developing patience. These qualities are not visible at first, but they are life-changing. When challenges come, you respond differently because your habits have trained your mind to stay steady. Habits also protect your energy. Without discipline, you waste time on things that do not matter. You get pulled into distractions, arguments, or temptations that derail your day. But when you follow habits that guide your behavior, you move with purpose. You know what to ignore and what to focus on. You stop giving your attention to everything around you. You start choosing what deserves your energy. This ability to choose is one of the strongest forms of self-leadership. Self-discipline is the master skill that supports all other skills. When you develop discipline through habits, you become better at learning, better at managing your emotions, better at making decisions, and better at reaching long-term goals. Many people struggle not because they lack talent, but because they lack discipline. Talent helps, but discipline multiplies it. Without discipline, even the best opportunities are wasted. To build powerful habits, start small but stay committed. Do not rush the process. Discipline develops slowly. Each day adds a layer. Each action creates a foundation. With time, these layers form a structure that supports every part of your life. The person you become tomorrow is shaped by the habits you practice today. When you are building discipline, remember that your future depends on your repeated actions. Nothing changes until your daily behavior changes. Success will not arrive suddenly. It will grow with you as you grow through your habits. Your habits define your routine. Your routine defines your character, and your character defines your destiny. A disciplined life is not about being perfect. It is about being consistent. It is about showing up again and again, even when the progress is slow, even when no one else notices. Discipline is the quiet work you do when no one is watching. Over time, that quiet work becomes the loudest result. In the end, you realize that discipline is not a restriction. It is a form of freedom. The more disciplined you become, the more control you have over your life. You stop reacting to everything. You stop drifting. You stop depending on motivation. You move with intention. You lead yourself first. And because of that, success begins to follow you naturally. Building habits that shape discipline is the beginning of a new version of yourself, a version that can handle challenges without breaking, a version that keeps promises, a version that grows steadily, patiently, and intentionally. When you master your habits, you master your life. You become someone who does not wait for success, but creates it through daily actions. And with time, you see that discipline was never a limitation. It was the path you needed all along. Number 2. Remove distractions, controlling your direction. Distractions quietly take control when you are not paying attention. They do not ask for permission. They slowly pull your focus, weaken your intentions, and redirect your energy toward things that do not serve your growth. Removing distractions that control your direction begins with recognizing how easily a day can be shaped by things that do not matter. A person can wake up with a clear plan, only to lose hours to noise, impulses, and interruptions that provide nothing in return. When distractions take the lead, your time is no longer your own. Your goals become delayed. Your progress becomes inconsistent. Your life begins to feel scattered. That is why learning to remove distractions is an essential part of leading yourself. Removing distractions is not about having a perfect environment. It is about creating a life where your attention aligns with your priorities. It starts with awareness. If you never examine what steals your time, it becomes impossible to protect your direction. Most distractions are not loud or dramatic. They are small habits that slip into your routine without resistance. A few minutes spent scrolling can easily turn into an hour. A simple notification can break your concentration and lead your mind into a new path you never intended to take. Distractions often feel harmless, but their impact becomes obvious when you compare what you planned to do with what you actually did. Your direction in life is shaped by the things that consistently win your attention. If something unimportant wins your attention every day, it gradually becomes part of your life's direction without your awareness. That is why taking control of your focus is a form of self-leadership. When you choose where your attention goes, you choose where your life goes. This choice is not made once, it is made repeatedly through disciplined actions that protect your time and energy. One of the most effective ways to remove distractions is by simplifying your environment. Many people assume they need more willpower, but what they truly need is fewer temptations. A physical space filled with noise, clutter, or unnecessary items invites your mind to wander. When you reduce what surrounds you, you reduce the chances of being pulled off course. A simple space helps your mind rest. It supports clarity. It keeps you oriented toward what matters. Even small changes, like organizing your workspace or reducing visual clutter, can improve your ability to remain focused. Another powerful method is controlling your digital environment. Most modern distractions live within your devices. Notifications are designed to interrupt your attention. Endless feeds are designed to keep you scrolling. Messages can arrive at any moment, pulling you away from your plans before you even realize it. Managing your digital environment requires intention. Turning off non-essential notifications, limiting app usage, and creating specific times for online activity helps your mind remain steady. You begin realizing that you do not need constant updates. You do not need every alert. You do not need to react to everything instantly. The more control you gain over your digital habits, the more control you gain over your direction. Removing distractions also includes setting emotional boundaries. Sometimes the biggest distractions are not things, but people. Some individuals bring unnecessary drama, negativity, or confusion into your life. They consume your attention with their problems, their opinions, or their expectations. If you allow your mind to be shaped by the emotions of others, your direction becomes dependent on them. Protecting your emotional space is essential. This does not mean isolating yourself. It means choosing your influences wisely. Surrounding yourself with stability strengthens your focus. Surrounding yourself with chaos weakens it. Another important step is understanding your own patterns. Everyone has personal distractions, small habits that feel comfortable but prevent growth. It may be checking your phone when you feel uncertain. It may be avoiding a task because it feels difficult. It may be seeking entertainment when you feel bored. These behaviors become automatic unless you pause and observe them. When you understand your patterns, you can replace them with better choices. Awareness creates space between impulse and action. That space gives you control. Your direction becomes clearer when you choose what deserves your attention. Instead of reacting to everything around you, you begin acting based on intention. Every time you remove a distraction, you create room for progress. You give your mind the chance to stay connected to your goals. You strengthen your ability to stay steady, even when the world tries to pull you away. This inner strength grows each time you protect your attention. Removing distractions also means choosing when to disconnect. Constant stimulation makes the mind restless. It becomes difficult to stay present, difficult to think deeply, and difficult to maintain long-term focus. When you intentionally disconnect for short periods, your mind resets. You regain clarity. You regain the ability to concentrate on one thing at a time. This skill becomes a powerful advantage in a world where most people are pulled in every direction. Many people underestimate how much progress they could make if they simply protected their attention for a few hours each day. Deep focus creates results that are impossible when you are constantly interrupted. You work faster, you think more clearly, you absorb information more deeply, you feel more grounded. The quality of your direction improves because the quality of your attention improves. You also gain a stronger sense of purpose when distractions no longer dominate your routine. Your mind becomes more selective. You start recognizing what strengthens you and what weakens you. You start choosing activities that align with your long-term goals instead of temporary impulses. This shift creates confidence. You begin trusting yourself more. You begin believing in your ability to stay focused. One of the most powerful effects of removing distractions is the sense of peace it brings. When your mind is not pulled in multiple directions, you experience a calm that many people go years without feeling. This calmness is not the absence of effort, it is the presence of clarity. A clear mind makes better decisions. A clear mind manages stress more effectively. A clear mind sees opportunities that a distracted mind would miss. This clarity becomes part of your identity. You start living with intention. Removing distractions does not mean living without enjoyment. It means choosing enjoyment consciously instead of using it as an escape. It means giving your attention to the things that enrich your life, rather than the things that drain it. When you enjoy something with intention, it becomes more meaningful. When you indulge in distractions without awareness, you lose time you cannot get back. As you remove distractions, you also strengthen your discipline. Your mind learns how to resist urges. Your focus becomes sharper. Your direction becomes more stable. You begin moving through your days with a sense of control that many people never experience. You stop wasting energy on things that do not matter. You start investing your energy in things that lead you forward. Your direction is precious. It decides who you become. It decides what you achieve. It decides the kind of life you create. Protecting that direction requires removing everything that weakens your attention, your time, and your purpose. Distractions will always exist, but they cannot control you when you become intentional about your focus. When you take control of your attention, you take control of your life. You lead yourself first. And once you begin leading yourself, success has no choice but to follow. Number 3. Create standards you always follow. Standards are the rules you set for yourself, long before the world gives you any approval. They are the expectations that guide how you behave, how you think, and how you respond to the challenges that rise in front of you. When you create standards you always follow, you no longer drift through life reacting to whatever happens. You move with purpose. You carry yourself with intention. You act in alignment with the person you want to become, not the person you were yesterday. Standards build a foundation that stabilizes your character, protects your values, and strengthens your sense of direction. They are the quiet forces that shape your identity and influence every decision you make. Many people live without standards because they fear holding themselves to something consistent. They avoid expectations because expectations demand effort. But a life without standards is a life without structure. Without structure, it is easy to bend toward convenience. It becomes natural to make decisions based on comfort rather than growth. When there are no standards guiding your path, you become vulnerable to habits, influences, and impulses that move you away from your goals. Standards act like an internal compass. They remind you of what you stand for, even when circumstances become difficult. Creating standards begins with understanding what you refuse to compromise. Everyone has principles, but only a few live in alignment with them. Most people adjust their values depending on the situation. They change their behavior based on who is watching or what feels easier in the moment. When you decide to create standards that you always follow, you are choosing to live by principles that remain stable no matter the environment. This steadiness builds mental strength. It gives you a level of self-respect that cannot be taken away. Standards are not rules that make life rigid. They are boundaries that make life meaningful. They protect your time, your energy, and your potential. When you choose not to settle for less than you are capable of, you naturally rise to a higher level of behavior. You speak differently, you act differently. You make choices that reflect discipline rather than impulse. Standards reshape the way you see yourself, and once you see yourself through a stronger lens, you no longer tolerate anything that weakens your growth. One of the most powerful parts of creating standards is recognizing that your actions teach others how to treat you. When you show consistency in your values, people understand what you stand for. They know what you will and will not accept. This creates healthy boundaries without the need for constant explanation. People respect those who live with self-discipline because it shows clarity. When you follow your own standards, you demonstrate strength through action, not words. Your standards also influence your decision-making. Life becomes easier when you do not have to think through every temptation or challenge. When your standards are clear, many decisions are made automatically. If your standard is honesty, you tell the truth even when it is difficult. If your standard is effort, you show up even when you feel tired. If your standard is growth, you seek improvement even when the progress feels slow. These choices shape your character, and character shapes your destiny. People often fail not because they lack potential, but because they lack standards. They allow excuses to become normal. They allow inconsistency to become part of their identity. They allow comfort to influence their choices. But when you build standards, you always follow. Excuses lose their power. You stop negotiating with yourself in moments of weakness. You stop giving yourself reasons to avoid responsibility. You develop the internal strength to choose what aligns with your goals over what feels easy. To create strong standards, you must begin by defining what matters most. Start with your values. Consider what kind of person you want to be in your behavior, your relationships, your work and your responsibilities. Then turn these values into daily expectations. Your standards should be simple enough to follow, but strong enough to challenge you. They should encourage discipline, integrity, and self-respect. Once you define them, commit to them without conditions. Commitment is where most people struggle. A standard is only as meaningful as the consistency behind it. Following it when you feel motivated is easy. Following it when you feel discouraged is where growth happens. You will face days when your standards feel inconvenient. You will face situations where compromise feels tempting. But those moments reveal your strength. Every time you choose your standards over comfort, you reinforce the identity you are building. Your standards should not depend on the behavior of others. Many people abandon their expectations the moment someone else disappoints them. They justify lowering their standards because they feel frustrated or misunderstood. But a strong standard is something you uphold regardless of how others behave. It is a personal commitment. It is a reflection of who you are, not a reaction to someone else. When you stay true to your standards even in difficult moments, you gain control over your life. Standards also help you protect your growth from the influence of your environment. When you hold yourself to a higher level, you naturally distance yourself from people, habits, and situations that pull you downward. Standards act as filters. Anything that threatens your direction, mindset, or well-being becomes easier to recognize. You stop giving your time to things that offer no benefit. You stop entertaining distractions disguised as opportunities. You stop settling for relationships that drain your energy. Your standards create clarity, and clarity creates peace. As you continue living by your standards, you start feeling a deeper sense of self-trust. Every time you follow through on a commitment, you prove to yourself that you can rely on your own discipline. This inner trust is rare, and it becomes one of your strongest assets. When you trust yourself, you stop doubting your ability to grow. You stop questioning your potential. You stop hesitating. You begin pursuing your goals with confidence because your behavior supports your belief. Many people talk about the future they want, but only those with standards build a life that aligns with that future. Standards shape your habits. Habits shape your behavior. Behavior shapes your results. It begins internally but shows up externally. The life you create is a reflection of the expectations you have for yourself. Your standards also affect your long-term direction. When you consistently follow them, you create a path filled with purpose rather than confusion. You know what you represent. You know what you aim for. You know what you will not compromise. This stability gives you strength during uncertainty. While others feel lost because they rely on motivation, you remain steady because you rely on discipline. Creating standards you always follow does not require perfection. It requires sincerity. It requires daily effort. It requires choosing long-term fulfillment over short-term comfort. As you maintain these standards, your life will begin to shift in ways you did not expect. Your relationships improve because your values become clearer. Your productivity increases because your priorities become stronger. Your direction sharpens because your attention becomes focused. Your confidence grows because your actions match your intentions. Nothing in life changes without internal clarity. When you create and uphold strong standards, you take control of your identity. You decide the quality of your behavior. You decide the path you walk. You decide the type of life you build. This is the core of self-leadership. And when you lead yourself with strong standards, success begins to move in the same direction you do. Number 4. Set boundaries to protect focus. Focus is one of the most valuable strengths you can develop, yet it is also one of the most fragile. It can be weakened by noise, drained by interruptions, or scattered by obligations that pull you in too many directions. Setting boundaries to protect your focus is not about shutting the world out. It is about choosing what you allow into your life. Without boundaries, everything and everyone can access your time, your energy, and your attention. When your attention is open to anything, your path becomes influenced by everything. Boundaries give structure to your mind. They protect your goals, your growth, and your peace. They make sure your focus stays directed toward what matters instead of being dragged into things that add nothing to your life. A boundary is simply a line that separates what supports you from what distracts you. Many people struggle because they never draw this line. They say yes when they want to say no. They take on responsibilities that are not theirs. They respond to every request out of guilt, expectation, or habit. This open-door mindset leaves no space for focus. If your attention is always available, your progress becomes inconsistent. Focus requires protection, and protection requires limits that you follow consistently. Setting boundaries begins with understanding that your time is not unlimited. If you spend it on what drains you, there will be nothing left for what builds you. Every day you are given a limited amount of mental energy. If that energy is scattered across unimportant tasks, pointless conversations, and constant interruptions, you will have very little left for your true priorities. Boundaries help you direct your energy toward actions that serve your growth. They help you create a life where you move forward deliberately instead of reacting constantly. One of the strongest boundaries you can set is learning when to decline something that does not align with your goals. Many people struggle with this because they fear disappointing others. They worry about seeming rude or unhelpful. But the cost of always being available is high. It takes away from your ability to focus deeply. It steals hours that should be spent developing your skills or working on your personal growth. When you say yes to everything, you say no to your own potential. Learning to decline politely but firmly is not selfish. It is necessary for self-leadership. You must also protect your focus from the emotional weight of others. Not every problem is your responsibility. Not every conflict requires your involvement. Not every emotional outburst deserves your attention. If you allow yourself to be pulled into every situation that arises around you, your mind will rarely have space to concentrate. Emotional boundaries mean deciding what you will absorb and what you will let pass. They help you remain grounded even when others feel overwhelmed. This stability allows you to use your mental energy for what supports your journey. Noise is another threat to focus. Noise is not limited to sound. It includes conversations that drain you, environments that distract you, and activities that interrupt your flow. Creating a focused life often requires restructuring your environment so that it supports your concentration. This might mean limiting how much time you spend with people who constantly interrupt your peace. It might mean reducing the presence of digital distractions or creating a workspace that encourages discipline. A clear environment leads to a clear mind. When your surroundings support your goals, your focus strengthens naturally. Technology requires boundaries as well. Devices are built to steal attention. Without limits, They become constant intruders, interrupting every meaningful moment with notifications, alerts, and reminders. If you want to protect your focus, create rules for how you use your devices. Silence non-essential notifications. Keep your phone away during deep work. Set specific times to check messages instead of reacting instantly. These small actions prevent outside noise from infiltrating your mind. They give you uninterrupted time to think, create, and grow. Protecting your focus also means protecting your routines. When you create a schedule that supports your growth, treat it with respect. Do not allow last-minute requests to disrupt it. Do not allow laziness to break it. Do not allow guilt to rearrange it. Your routine is part of your boundary. It keeps your focus anchored. It provides structure for your goals. When you follow it consistently, you strengthen your discipline and create momentum that carries you forward. Another important boundary is the one you set with yourself. Many people assume boundaries are only about limiting others, but self-boundaries are just as important. You must decide what you will no longer tolerate in your own behavior. This might include the habit of procrastination, the tendency to multitask, or the urge to escape into distractions when things feel difficult. Self-boundaries are commitments you make to yourself about how you will behave. They help you stay aligned with your intentions. When you honor these commitments, you build strong internal discipline. Protecting your focus also requires limiting access to your mental space. Not everyone deserves to influence your thoughts. Not every opinion needs to matter. Not every criticism requires your attention. You must define whose voices you allow into your life. When you give weight to every opinion, your direction becomes unstable. Boundaries help you stay centered in your own judgment. They prevent your focus from being shaken by noise, criticism, or unnecessary drama. Boundaries give you the opportunity to work deeply. Deep focus is a state where your mind becomes fully absorbed in the task at hand. It is where creativity grows, clarity sharpens, and progress accelerates. Deep work is impossible without boundaries. If your attention is fragmented by constant interruptions, you cannot reach the level of focus required to create meaningful results. Boundaries protect this mental space. They give you uninterrupted time where progress feels natural instead of forced. Another benefit of boundaries is the sense of control they provide. When you decide what enters your life, you stop feeling overwhelmed. You stop feeling pulled in multiple directions. You stop letting other people's urgency become your emergency. This control reduces stress and increases productivity. It strengthens your confidence because you feel capable of managing your environment instead of being controlled by it. Setting boundaries to protect your focus will also help you recognize what you actually value. When you remove distractions, the important things become more visible. You see what deserves your energy and what does not. You notice which habits help you grow and which habits weaken your progress. This awareness helps you make better decisions, build stronger routines, and choose actions that lead to long-term success. Boundaries must be consistent to be effective. A boundary you enforce only sometimes is not a boundary at all. It is a suggestion. Consistency shows others that you value your time. It shows yourself that your goals are non-negotiable. When you enforce boundaries regularly, they become part of who you are. They create a lifestyle where focus is respected, protected, and strengthened. The more you protect your focus, the more progress you make. The more progress you make, the more confident you become. The more confident you become, the clearer your direction feels. Boundaries are not restrictions, they are tools that help you build a life defined by intention rather than distraction. They help you move with clarity rather than confusion. They help you stay aligned with the path that leads you forward. When you set boundaries to protect your focus, you take ownership of your life. You stop allowing outside forces to dictate your direction. You lead yourself with purpose, and when you lead yourself with purpose, success begins to follow naturally. Number 5. Lead emotions before they lead. When you decide to lead your emotions instead of allowing them to steer your day, you take back a level of control that many people don't even realize they've given away. Most people react without thinking. They move through their life responding to irritation, stress, anger, and frustration, as if those feelings are the ones calling the shots. But when you choose to take responsibility for your internal state, your emotional world becomes something you direct with awareness instead of something that pushes you around. This change begins by admitting that emotions are not instructions. They are signals. They show you what needs attention, but they shouldn't dictate your behavior. Leading yourself starts by noticing what you're feeling instead of being swept up by it. That awareness creates a space where you can choose how to act instead of reacting on autopilot. When an emotion rises, whether it's fear, impatience, jealousy, or doubt, your first job is to slow down. A deep breath gives your mind enough clarity to see what's happening before you respond. It may feel small, but that pause can save you from choices you would later regret. It also strengthens your ability to stay grounded under pressure. Leading your emotions means you train yourself to pause, even when your instincts push you to rush forward. In that pause, you regain control over your reactions. And with practice, that small pause becomes a powerful habit that protects your long-term goals. Another part of leading your emotions is understanding that not every feeling deserves a voice in your decisions. Some emotions are helpful. They warn you about danger or push you to pay attention to something important. Other emotions, however, come from old habits, fears, or insecurities. If you let every emotion become your decision maker, you end up living a life controlled by impulses instead of intention. You strengthen your leadership over yourself by choosing which emotions you listen to and which ones you let pass without acting on them. This is how you grow emotional maturity. You don't suppress your feelings. You simply stop letting the unhelpful ones drive your behavior. There will be moments when your emotions try to take over. Stress will tempt you to quit early. Anger will push you to say things you can't take back. Doubt will try to pull you away from progress. In those moments, leading your emotions means reminding yourself of what you want long-term. If you act only from how you feel in the moment, you sacrifice your future for temporary comfort or temporary release. When you act from intention instead of emotion, you protect your future from impulsive decisions. The more you practice this, the easier it becomes to stay aligned with the life you want. Another part of leading your emotions is learning to separate the feeling from the story you attach to it. You can feel anxious without assuming something bad will happen. You can feel annoyed without creating a narrative that someone is against you. When you slow down and question the stories you build around your emotions, you stop creating problems that only exist in your mind. You begin to see your emotions as temporary states, not permanent truths. This gives you more clarity and stops you from overreacting to situations that don't require extreme responses. When you stop letting feelings distort reality, decision-making becomes easier and more stable. Leading your emotions also requires you to build habits that support emotional stability. Sleep, movement, and nutrition may not sound dramatic, but they directly influence how consistently you can manage your emotional state. When your body is exhausted, you become more reactive. When you neglect self-care, irritations feel bigger than they are. Taking care of your physical well-being is one of the strongest foundations for leading your emotions. You cannot regulate your mind if your body is overwhelmed. When you treat your body properly, your emotional world becomes much easier to guide. Another important part of leading your emotions is building the ability to sit with discomfort. Most people run away from anything that feels unpleasant. They avoid difficult conversations, delay tough decisions, and distract themselves from feelings they don't want to face. But avoiding discomfort gives your emotions more power, not less. When you sit with an uncomfortable feeling without trying to escape it, you teach yourself that you can handle emotional pressure. You build resilience. You stop being controlled by temporary discomfort. With time, uncomfortable emotions no longer intimidate you because you've proven to yourself that you can endure them without falling apart. To lead your emotions well, you must also become honest with yourself. You can't guide what you refuse to acknowledge. If you try to pretend you're fine when you're not, your emotions will eventually overwhelm you. If you ignore feelings of resentment, insecurity, or fear, they will influence your decisions in hidden ways. Leading your emotions requires self-honesty. It means facing what you feel without judgment and choosing how to respond in a way that aligns with your growth. When you practice honesty with yourself, you remove the emotional fog that clouds your thinking. Another step in leading your emotions is learning how to communicate them with clarity instead of intensity. When you express emotions calmly, people listen. When you express them impulsively, people defend themselves. Leading your emotions doesn't mean suppressing them. It means delivering them in a way that creates understanding instead of conflict. Clear communication strengthens your relationships and reduces unnecessary tension. It also shows that you have control over your internal state, which is one of the strongest signs of personal leadership. Leading your emotions also means refusing to let emotional reactions ruin your consistency. Many people only show up when they feel good. They work hard on days when motivation is high, but on days they feel discouraged, they disappear. If your behavior depends on how you feel, your progress will always be unstable. But when you lead your emotions, you show up even when you don't feel like it. You don't wait for emotional approval to take action. You train yourself to do what needs to be done regardless of momentary feelings. This consistency builds confidence and strengthens your identity as someone who follows through. Finally, leading your emotions means recognizing that your emotions are your responsibility. No one else can regulate them for you. Blaming others for how you feel keeps you dependent and reactive. Taking ownership gives you power. It brings freedom because you no longer need external conditions to feel stable. You become someone who can stand firm even when life becomes chaotic, and that stability is what allows you to lead yourself effectively. When you can guide your emotions, you gain the ability to lead your actions, habits, mindset, and decisions. And once you can lead yourself, success in any area of life becomes far more reachable because nothing inside you is pulling you away from your goals. By taking responsibility for your emotions, you build a level of personal strength that most people never develop. You become someone who can face challenges without falling apart, make decisions without impulsiveness, and stay focused without being thrown off by temporary feelings. When you lead your emotions before they lead you, you create a life built on intention rather than reaction, and that is the foundation for lasting success. Number 6. Take responsibility for every choice. Taking responsibility for every choice is one of the most powerful shifts you can make when you're trying to lead yourself toward a better life. It requires honesty, maturity, and a willingness to look at your actions without excuses. When you take full ownership of each decision, you remove the option of blaming outside factors for the results you get. You stop pointing at circumstances, other people, or luck, and you start recognizing that your choices are shaping your reality every day. This mindset gives you control because once you see that your life is built from your decisions, you also realize that you have the ability to change those decisions whenever necessary. You don't have to wait for approval or perfect conditions. You simply take action that aligns with the direction you want to go. One of the reasons people avoid taking responsibility is that it forces them to admit when they made a poor choice. Many want the reward without acknowledging the part they played in the outcome. But when you refuse to accept responsibility, you also give up your ability to correct your path. You stay stuck making the same mistakes without learning from them. When you own your choices, you open the door to improvement. You can look at what went wrong, understand why you made that choice, and create a better plan for next time. Growth becomes possible only when you stop pretending that your decisions are caused by someone else's behavior. Taking responsibility turns every situation into feedback instead of failure. Another part of taking responsibility is recognizing that even small choices matter. People often think only the big decisions determine their life, but it's the everyday choices that create your direction. The decision to wake up earlier, manage your money better, limit distractions, or stay committed to your goals adds up to long-term transformation. When you take responsibility for the little choices, you build habits that support consistency. You stop relying on motivation alone and start building discipline through daily action. Every small decision takes you either closer or further from the person you want to become. When you understand this, you begin treating each choice with intention instead of letting life flow without direction. Taking responsibility also means refusing to let emotions justify poor decisions. When you're tired, upset, or frustrated, it's easy to make choices you later regret. But if you allow your emotional state to dictate your behavior, you end up losing control of your path. Taking responsibility requires awareness. It means asking yourself whether you're acting based on what's best for your future or based only on what feels comfortable in the moment. When you choose the action that aligns with your long-term goals even when you don't feel like it, you strengthen your ability to lead yourself. You learn to trust yourself because you know you won't abandon your commitments when things get difficult. Another part of taking responsibility is accepting the consequences of your actions without trying to escape them. When a decision leads to a challenge, you face it. When a choice results in discomfort, you learn from it. This builds character. It teaches you to stay steady under pressure instead of running from difficulties. People who constantly avoid consequences only make life harder for themselves. Problems grow when ignored, but when you face the result of your decisions directly, you develop the mental strength to handle bigger responsibilities in the future. You become someone who can be trusted, not just by others, but by yourself. Taking responsibility also requires that you stop relying on external validation to justify your decisions. Many people choose based on what others might think instead of what they truly want or need. This leads to frustration and regret because you're living a life built on someone else's expectations. When you take responsibility, you make decisions based on your values, your goals, and what you believe is right for your growth. You stop seeking permission to improve your life. You learn to stand by your choices even if others don't understand them. This independence builds confidence and helps you create a life aligned with your true priorities. Another important part of taking responsibility for every choice is understanding the power of accountability. Being accountable means you can look at your actions without denial. You don't hide from mistakes, and you don't pretend things are fine when they're not. This honesty with yourself prevents you from repeating the same unhelpful patterns. You start recognizing when you're slipping, when you're avoiding work, or when you're letting old habits take over. Accountability allows you to correct your behavior before it turns into a bigger problem. It also keeps your goals alive because you're constantly checking whether your actions match the outcomes you want. Taking responsibility for every choice also means being intentional with your time. Time is one of the most valuable resources you have, and once it's gone, you can't replace it. When you take ownership of how you spend your time, you stop wasting hours on activities that don't support your growth. You become aware of distractions, unproductive habits, and unnecessary commitments that pull you away from progress. You start choosing activities that contribute to your goals instead of just filling your day. This intentional use of time speeds up your progress because you're focusing on the actions that bring meaningful results. Another aspect of taking responsibility is acknowledging the role your mindset plays in your decisions. Your thoughts influence your choices, and your choices shape your life. If you constantly think you don't have control, you'll act in ways that reinforce that belief. If you believe you're capable of learning and improving, you'll make choices that support that belief. Taking responsibility for your mindset means paying attention to the thoughts you allow to guide you. It means replacing self-doubt with productive thinking. It means challenging limiting beliefs instead of accepting them as facts. When you own your mindset, you create the mental environment needed for consistent progress. Taking responsibility also involves choosing progress over pride. Sometimes your ego will try to protect you from admitting that you made a poor decision. It might push you to defend a choice even when you know it isn't working. But if you let pride run your decisions, you hold yourself back. Taking responsibility means being humble enough to adjust when you see a better direction. It means being willing to start over when necessary. It means admitting when something needs to change. This flexibility is a strength, not a weakness, because it keeps you moving forward instead of staying stuck. Ultimately, taking responsibility for every choice is about creating a life that is shaped by your intention, not your excuses. It means acknowledging that you are the one designing your future through the decisions you make today. When you embrace this level of ownership, you become someone who can create real change. You stop waiting for perfect timing. You stop blaming external situations. You stop relying on hope alone and start relying on action. And once you learn to take responsibility for every choice, you gain the ability to shape your path with purpose, clarity, and strength. This is one of the core foundations of leading yourself first, and when you master it, success becomes a natural result of the life you're building. Number 7. Practice actions that build confidence. Confidence is not something that suddenly appears when life becomes easy. It grows from the actions you take, the challenges you face, and the choices you make even when uncertainty is present. Many people wait to feel confident before they act, but confidence doesn't work that way. It develops through doing, not waiting. Every time you take a step that stretches you, every time you follow through on something you told yourself you would do, you strengthen your trust in your own abilities. This trust becomes the foundation of confidence. It reminds you that you can rely on yourself, not only in moments of calm, but especially when life tests you. Confidence is built through repetition of meaningful actions, not through empty affirmations. Telling yourself you're capable means little if your behavior never supports that belief. But when your actions prove your commitment, you create a connection between intention and reality. This connection shows you that you're not just hoping to improve, you're actively doing the work. This becomes powerful because you start recognizing that your progress is not based on perfection, but on consistency. Even small actions become important when you repeat them until they feel natural. Each time you show up for yourself, you strengthen your ability to handle challenges with steadiness instead of hesitation. One of the most effective ways to build confidence is to deliberately put yourself in situations that require a little more effort than you're comfortable with. You don't need to jump into overwhelming challenges, but you should take steps that push your limits in a healthy way. When you face something slightly beyond your current ability, you widen your capacity. You learn more about what you can handle. You see that discomfort is not a threat, but a signal that you're expanding. This teaches you that growth and discomfort are connected, and when you understand this, you no longer fear new experiences. Instead, you start looking at them as opportunities to strengthen your inner foundation. Confidence also grows when you follow through on your promises to yourself. Every time you commit to something and complete it, you reinforce your belief that you can be trusted. This internal trust is essential because confidence crumbles when you repeatedly break your own promises. When you say you will do something and then ignore it, you weaken your self-respect. But when you commit and execute, even on the small tasks, you build a pattern of reliability. Over time, this creates a powerful internal message. You are someone who does what you say. That message becomes a source of strength in moments when you need it most. Another crucial part of building confidence is learning to accept mistakes without letting them define you. When you make a mistake and continue forward with a better approach, you separate your identity from your errors. You understand that mistakes are not a sign of weakness, but evidence that you are learning. This mindset shift helps you take more risks, not reckless ones, but thoughtful actions that contribute to your growth. When you refuse to let fear of mistakes control you, you open the door to experiences you once avoided. You realize that confidence doesn't come from avoiding failure, it comes from knowing you can recover from it. Confidence develops when you build competence. The more you practice something, the more skilled you become. And the more skilled you become, the more comfortable you feel doing it. Competence removes uncertainty because it gives you real evidence of your improvement. Whether it's communication, physical skills, emotional management, or professional abilities, consistent practice sharpens your capability. This doesn't mean you have to be perfect, only that you put in the effort to grow. When you know you've done the work, you don't need validation from others to feel capable. Your ability becomes its own validation. Confidence also grows through preparation. When you take the time to prepare, learn and understand the situations you're stepping into, you reduce the fear that comes from unpredictability. Preparation gives you structure, and structure gives you clarity. When you know what to expect and how to handle it, you approach challenges with calm instead of panic. This doesn't mean you eliminate uncertainty entirely, it means you equip yourself to deal with it. Preparation reinforces the idea that confidence is not about knowing everything, it's about being ready to adapt. Another action that builds confidence is speaking to yourself with the same honesty and support that you would offer someone you care about. Self-talk plays a massive role in your ability to take action. If you constantly criticize yourself, doubt your abilities, or compare your progress to others, you weaken your confidence. But when you speak in a way that encourages effort, acknowledges progress, and challenges unhelpful thoughts, you strengthen your internal environment. This doesn't mean lying to yourself. It means being constructive instead of destructive. Confidence grows when your inner dialogue supports your goals instead of undermining them. To build confidence, you must also reduce your dependence on external approval. When your self-worth rises and falls based on whether others praise you or ignore your efforts, your confidence becomes unstable. True confidence is steady because it comes from within. It's shaped by your effort, your choices, and your progress, not by someone else's opinion. When you understand that you don't need constant validation to move forward, you free yourself from the pressure of trying to satisfy everyone. This allows you to act with authenticity instead of seeking acceptance. You no longer shrink yourself to fit expectations. You choose your actions based on your values. Another action that strengthens confidence is setting goals that challenge you but are still achievable. When you accomplish goals that required effort, you prove to yourself that you're capable of pushing beyond your comfort zone. These achievements become evidence of your ability to grow. Each completed goal adds another layer of self-belief, making it easier to take on larger challenges. This structured progression makes confidence sustainable. It's not built on random bursts of motivation, but on a clear path of effort and achievement. Confidence also grows when you maintain your physical and mental well-being. Taking care of your health directly influences your energy, clarity, and resilience. When your body feels strong and your mind feels steady, you approach challenges with more courage. Building habits such as consistent exercise, quality sleep, nutritious eating, and mindfulness practices strengthen your overall foundation. These actions may seem simple, but they have a deep impact on how capable you feel. Confidence weakens when your energy is low and your mind is scattered. But when you invest in your well-being, you give yourself the strength to perform at your best. Another important part of building confidence is learning to handle criticism without letting it destroy your sense of worth. Not every critique is useful, and not every opinion deserves your attention. When you learn to separate constructive feedback from unnecessary negativity, you protect your mindset. This self-protection allows you to keep improving without losing belief in yourself. You become open to learning while staying grounded in your value. This balanced approach builds emotional stability, which supports long-term confidence. Ultimately, confidence is not a single action, but a combination of many choices repeated over time. It grows from discipline, commitment, and self-respect. It's built when you stop waiting for courage and start acting despite uncertainty. It becomes stronger with each completed task, each learned lesson, and each moment you choose effort over avoidance. Confidence expands when you guide yourself with intention instead of fear, and when you practice actions that build confidence daily, you shape a version of yourself that is capable, steady, and ready to lead your life with strength and direction. Number 8. Show consistency even without motivation. Consistency is one of the strongest forces you can build within yourself, yet it's also one of the most challenging because it requires you to act even when your emotions aren't cooperating. Motivation comes and goes, often influenced by your mood, your environment, or the level of comfort you feel in the moment. Consistency doesn't depend on any of that. It isn't fueled by inspiration or excitement. It's powered by commitment. When you choose to keep moving forward, even on days when your energy is low or your interest fades, you create a level of discipline that strengthens every part of your life. This strength becomes a silent anchor that holds you steady when life pulls you in different directions. Showing consistency without motivation begins with accepting that you won't always feel ready. There will be mornings when you wake up without the drive you hoped for. There will be days when your mind feels heavy and your energy feels scattered. It's easy to assume that these moments mean you should pull back, but the truth is that these are the moments that define your growth. When you act only on your good days, your progress becomes unpredictable. But when you act on your difficult days, you train yourself to rise above temporary feelings. This habit of showing up teaches you that progress is not an emotional experience, it's a daily decision. One of the keys to building consistency is creating routines that guide your actions even when your motivation isn't present. Routines remove the need to negotiate with yourself. Instead of debating whether you feel like doing something, the routine takes over. It becomes a system that keeps you moving without relying on emotional highs. This system is what separates people who achieve long-term success from those who constantly restart. When you have a structured routine, you save yourself from the mental exhaustion of questioning whether you should act. You simply follow the structure you created. Consistency becomes easier when you lower the pressure to perform perfectly. Many people think they must deliver their best every single day, but this expectation becomes overwhelming and discouraging. The goal is not perfection. The goal is steadiness. Even if your effort is smaller on certain days, your choice to continue matters. Doing a little is always more powerful than doing nothing. These small actions keep your momentum alive, and momentum is what drives long-term results. Once you learn that imperfect effort still counts, you stop holding yourself back because you didn't feel fully prepared. Another essential part of showing consistency without motivation is understanding your why. When your reason for improving is meaningful, you find strength even when your energy fades. Your deeper purpose becomes a source of stability when your emotions fluctuate. This reason doesn't have to be dramatic. It can be as simple as wanting a better life, wanting to improve your skills, wanting to break old habits, or wanting to feel proud of yourself. When your reason is personal and honest, it becomes strong enough to keep you grounded on days when motivation disappears. Consistency grows when you remove unnecessary friction. Friction comes from habits, environments, or behaviors that make simple actions feel complicated. When you reduce the steps required to complete a task, you make it easier to stay consistent. If you want to read more, keep your book visible. If you want to exercise, prepare your clothes the night before. If you want to work on a project, keep your tools ready. These small adjustments eliminate barriers that drain your willingness to act. The easier you make your starting point, the more likely you are to follow through. Showing consistency without motivation also requires managing your expectations. Many people expect motivation to guide them every day, and when it doesn't, they assume something is wrong. But motivation is temporary by nature. It's not designed to last. When you accept this truth, you stop waiting for emotional waves to carry you. Instead, you build internal structure. You decide that your actions aren't dependent on excitement. You take control of your progress by grounding yourself in discipline rather than mood. This shift frees you from the roller coaster of inconsistent effort. Another important factor is building accountability with yourself. Accountability means checking whether your actions match your goals. It means being honest when you slip and redirecting your behavior instead of pretending the slip didn't happen. Accountability keeps you aligned with your intentions. It allows you to recognize when you're drifting so you can return to your path before the gap widens. When you consistently hold yourself accountable, you build a stronger connection between your values and your actions. This strengthens your identity as someone who honors commitments, even when motivation is nowhere to be found. Consistency also grows when you break tasks into manageable steps. Large goals often feel overwhelming, especially when motivation is low. But when you divide them into smaller steps, the path becomes clear. Small steps reduce the resistance that often stops you before you begin. They also create a sense of accomplishment that fuels your momentum. Each completed step builds confidence, showing you that progress doesn't need to be dramatic to be meaningful. Continual small steps eventually create substantial results. Another powerful technique is learning to detach from your feelings in the moment. You might feel tired, distracted, or unenthusiastic, but those feelings don't need to control your actions. You can acknowledge them without allowing them to dictate your choices. This mental skill takes practice, but once you develop it, you become far more stable. You start acting based on intention rather than emotional fluctuation. This ability to separate feelings from actions becomes one of your strongest advantages because it allows you to move forward even when your inner state is unsettled. Consistency strengthens when you celebrate progress, not just outcomes. Many people focus so much on the final result that they overlook the daily effort required to reach it. When you acknowledge your progress, even if it's small, you reinforce the behavior that created it. This helps you feel grounded during long journeys where results aren't immediate. Recognizing progress keeps you motivated internally instead of depending on external signs of success. It teaches you that every day you show up is a win, even if the results are still forming. Another element of consistency is learning to manage disappointment. There will be days when your effort feels unnoticed or when your progress feels slow. Instead of allowing these moments to break your momentum, you treat them as natural parts of the journey. When you respond to disappointment with patience rather than frustration, you protect your long-term commitment. This patient persistence becomes a powerful force that many people overlook. It's not the dramatic efforts that shape your life, but the steady ones that continue even when no one sees the work you're doing. You become truly consistent when you stop relying on mood and start relying on identity. Instead of thinking, "I will try," you shift to "this is what I do." You act not because you feel inspired, but because it's part of who you're becoming. Your identity becomes the engine that drives your actions. When you see yourself as someone who shows up, someone who honors commitments, someone who stays steady even when things are difficult, you act in alignment with that identity naturally. This is how consistency becomes automatic rather than forced. Ultimately, showing consistency without motivation is one of the most transformative skills you can develop. It shapes your character, strengthens your discipline, and builds the foundation for everything else you want to achieve. When you continue on days when motivation fades, you become someone who can rely on your own discipline. You learn that progress is created through steady effort, not emotional waves. And once this becomes your normal way of operating, your goals stop feeling distant. They become reachable because you're building them piece by piece, day after day, with a level of consistency that doesn't disappear when your mood changes. Number 9. Improve skills through daily repetition. Improving skills is not a matter of talent alone. It is a matter of consistent effort applied over time. True mastery emerges from repetition, from the willingness to return to the task every day, even when progress feels slow or invisible. Daily repetition is the bridge between potential and ability. It transforms what once felt difficult into something natural. It turns knowledge into instinct and practice into excellence. When you commit to repeated action, you shift your growth from something that depends on luck to something that depends entirely on your own discipline and dedication. Each day you repeat an action, you are not simply practicing, you are building a foundation that compounds into long-term skill, competence, and confidence. Many people underestimate the power of small repeated actions. They believe that improvement happens in sudden bursts or dramatic breakthroughs. The truth is different. Real skill is refined quietly, incrementally, and almost invisibly. Writing a paragraph each day, practicing a sentence, running a few miles, solving a single problem, repeating a movement, or practicing a concept. These small repetitions accumulate over time. Each repetition slightly improves your efficiency, sharpens your understanding, and strengthens your ability to execute under pressure. Without repetition, skill remains abstract, theoretical, or incomplete. With repetition, skill becomes second nature, ingrained in both mind and body. Daily repetition also builds resilience. It trains you to continue showing up even when enthusiasm fades, when challenges appear, or when the initial excitement of learning disappears. Skills are rarely mastered in moments of motivation. They are mastered in moments when persistence overcomes resistance. Each time you return to practice, you prove to yourself that your commitment is stronger than your discomfort. This mental toughness becomes just as important as the skill itself. It reinforces the idea that improvement is not temporary or conditional, but a constant ongoing process that relies on your actions rather than your feelings. The process of repetition requires focus. Mindless repetition does little to advance your abilities. To improve effectively, each action must be deliberate. Paying attention to the details of your practice ensures that you are not simply going through the motions. Observing errors, adjusting your approach, and refining your technique with each iteration strengthens the connection between effort and result. This intentionality magnifies the benefits of repetition, turning each day's work into a step closer to mastery. Over time, the refinement becomes so embedded that your skill becomes automatic, fluid, and precise. Repetition also strengthens your confidence. Every day that you engage in focused practice, you reinforce the idea that you can improve. Progress may be slow, but it is measurable. Each session, each attempt, each effort proves that you are capable of growth. Confidence grows not from luck or natural ability, but from the evidence of persistent action. The more consistently you practice, the more tangible your improvement becomes, and the more assured you feel about your competence. This confidence becomes self-reinforcing, motivating you to continue despite challenges, setbacks, or distractions. Daily repetition requires patience. Progress is rarely immediate, and skill development often appears invisible until a tipping point is reached. Many people give up too soon because they expect rapid results. Mastery, however, is the accumulation of countless small efforts, each building upon the previous one. Understanding that repetition compounds over time allows you to stay committed without becoming frustrated by the pace of visible results. It is a long-term investment where every effort, no matter how small, contributes to eventual excellence. Repetition also helps internalize learning. When you practice a concept daily, it moves from conscious effort to unconscious ability. Your brain and body begin to recognize patterns, anticipate outcomes, and react instinctively. This is the difference between knowing something theoretically and being able to execute it consistently under pressure. Daily repetition bridges that gap, ensuring that skills are embedded deeply enough to function automatically in real-world situations, even when you are tired, distracted, or stressed. Another benefit of daily repetition is that it builds discipline. The act of showing up consistently, regardless of mood or circumstance, trains your mind to prioritize long-term growth over immediate comfort. You develop the habit of persistence, the ability to push through resistance, and the understanding that effort is non-negotiable if you want to achieve results. Discipline acquired through repetition carries over into every aspect of life, reinforcing habits that extend beyond skill acquisition into productivity, health, relationships, and personal growth. Daily repetition also fosters creativity. Mastery of fundamentals frees your mind to explore advanced techniques, new approaches, and innovative solutions. When basic skills are internalized through repetition, they no longer require conscious thought, leaving mental space for experimentation and refinement. This combination of precision and flexibility enables breakthroughs that would be impossible without the solid foundation created by repeated practice. Repetition, therefore, is not a limit, it is a launchpad for ingenuity. Feedback is essential to maximize the value of repetition. Practicing blindly can reinforce mistakes. To improve efficiently, each repetition should be accompanied by reflection and adjustment. Identify errors, make corrections, and refine your method. This creates a cycle where practice, feedback, and improvement feed into each other. Over time, your skills become sharper, more accurate, and more reliable. The daily repetition combined with thoughtful adjustment transforms ordinary effort into measurable progress. Daily repetition also teaches resilience against failure. Every failed attempt is not a setback, but an opportunity to refine your technique. Each time you continue practicing despite mistakes, you strengthen your ability to persist in the face of difficulty. This resilience becomes as important as the skill itself, because life rarely presents perfect conditions for growth. Those who understand the value of consistent practice learn to embrace challenges and setbacks as part of the process rather than obstacles to avoid. Consistency and repetition transforms ordinary talent into extraordinary capability. The skill that seemed unattainable at first becomes manageable through persistent effort. You begin to notice incremental improvement that compounds over weeks, months, and years. Each session is another brick in the structure of your competence, slowly shaping your abilities into something reliable and powerful. With time, these small daily actions create results far beyond what a single effort could achieve. Finally, daily repetition builds the mindset of mastery. You begin to see growth as a process rather than an event. You understand that true skill emerges from dedication, persistence, and the courage to keep practicing even when progress seems invisible. You start valuing effort over outcome, focus over shortcuts, and commitment over convenience. With daily repetition, your skills evolve, your confidence grows, and your potential becomes fully realized. Mastery is not a gift. It is the natural result of showing up again and again, deliberately, intentionally, and without fail. This habit of repetition turns ability into excellence and potential into achievement. Number 10. Review progress and adjust decisions. Reviewing progress and adjusting decisions is one of the most critical skills for anyone who wants to lead themselves effectively and achieve lasting success. Life is dynamic, circumstances change, and no single decision is perfect forever. Without reflection, you risk continuing down paths that no longer serve your goals, wasting effort and repeating mistakes. By regularly evaluating what is working and what isn't, you gain clarity, refine your approach, and make informed choices that keep you moving toward your objectives. This practice transforms action from blind effort into strategic advancement, ensuring that every step you take builds momentum instead of creating obstacles. The first step in reviewing progress is to create an honest and objective record of your actions. This doesn't mean judging yourself harshly or dwelling on failures, but it does require looking clearly at what you have done and the results that followed. Tracking progress allows you to see patterns you might otherwise miss. You begin to recognize which behaviors consistently produce positive outcomes and which ones create setbacks. This awareness is empowering because it gives you the knowledge to replicate success and reduce errors. It turns vague effort into measurable, actionable insight that strengthens decision-making. Adjusting decisions requires understanding that no choice is set in stone. Every plan, goal, or action you take exists within a larger context that can shift over time. New opportunities may arise, obstacles may appear, or your priorities may evolve. A choice that made sense months ago may no longer serve you today. By revisiting decisions regularly, you ensure that your actions remain aligned with your current objectives. This prevents stagnation and promotes growth because you remain flexible, adaptive, and responsive to reality, rather than clinging rigidly to outdated plans. An essential part of reviewing progress is identifying what has gone wrong and why. Mistakes are inevitable, but repeating them is optional. When a strategy fails, it is an opportunity to learn. Ask yourself what led to the outcome, what decisions contributed, and what could have been done differently. Avoid self-blame or excuses. Focus on understanding the sequence of choices and actions that produced the results. This analysis transforms failure from a negative experience into a powerful tool for improvement. Learning to extract insight from every setback strengthens judgment and increases the likelihood of better decisions in the future. Equally important is recognizing progress that has been made. It's easy to focus only on what hasn't worked, but acknowledging achievements is crucial for motivation and perspective. Celebrate the outcomes that align with your goals, no matter how small. Recognizing progress reinforces the value of your effort and provides evidence that your strategies can succeed. This reflection increases confidence, fuels continued action, and encourages persistence, even when challenges feel overwhelming. When you see that your choices produce results, you are more likely to make adjustments from a place of strategy rather than desperation. Another vital element is creating a feedback loop. Feedback can come from results, mentors, peers, or even self-reflection. Each source provides valuable insight into how effective your actions are. Constructive feedback highlights blind spots and offers alternative approaches you might not have considered. By incorporating feedback into your decision-making process, you continuously refine your strategies, making your actions increasingly effective. A strong feedback loop ensures that you are not stuck repeating ineffective patterns and allows for growth that is guided by real-world information instead of assumptions. Adjusting decisions also involves prioritizing actions that lead to meaningful results. Not all progress is equal. Some actions produce immediate, tangible outcomes, while others create minimal impact. Reviewing progress helps you identify which choices yield the highest return on effort. By shifting focus toward high-impact decisions, you make better use of your time, energy, and resources. This practice eliminates wasted effort, optimizes performance, and strengthens your ability to lead yourself effectively. Making thoughtful adjustments ensures that each step you take aligns with long-term success rather than short-term comfort or convenience. Consistency in reviewing and adjusting decisions creates a habit of self-leadership. When you regularly examine your actions and outcomes, you develop discipline and awareness that becomes automatic over time. This habit prevents complacency and encourages continuous improvement. It trains you to think critically about every choice and to question whether your current path is still serving your goals. A life built on thoughtful evaluation and intentional adjustment is far more productive and fulfilling than a life left to chance, reaction, or old habits. Another critical aspect is learning to balance patience with urgency. Not all outcomes can be measured instantly. Some decisions take time to reveal their effects. While reviewing progress, it is important to recognize when to give an action space to work and when to intervene with adjustments. Rushing to change strategies too quickly can undermine results, just as ignoring persistent problems can prevent growth. Developing the judgment to know when to wait and when to act is essential for leading yourself effectively and ensuring your choices produce the outcomes you desire. Adjusting decisions also requires letting go of ego and attachment. Sometimes a decision or plan has personal significance, and admitting it isn't working can feel like failure. True self-leadership means prioritizing results over pride. If a strategy no longer serves your objectives, it is not a reflection of your worth to pivot and choose a new approach. Flexibility demonstrates strength, not weakness. The willingness to change course based on honest evaluation ensures that your actions remain effective and aligned with your long-term vision. In addition, reviewing progress teaches the value of incremental improvement. Large-scale success rarely happens in a single leap. Instead, it emerges from small adjustments applied consistently over time. Each review session provides insights that inform minor corrections, which compound into significant growth. This iterative process allows you to refine your approach continually, optimizing results without waiting for perfect conditions or perfect performance. Incremental adjustments reduce risk and create steady momentum toward your goals. Accountability is also reinforced through this practice. When you track progress and adjust your decisions, you hold yourself responsible for outcomes. You cannot hide behind excuses, delay action indefinitely, or ignore problems. Ownership of both success and failure strengthens self-trust and reinforces the habit of taking deliberate action. Accountability keeps you aligned with your priorities and ensures that your leadership of yourself is proactive rather than reactive. The more responsibility you assume for your choices, the more empowered you become to influence your results. Finally, reviewing progress and adjusting decisions fosters long-term vision. When you reflect on actions, analyze results, and modify strategies, you gain a clearer understanding of what works for you and what aligns with your purpose. This clarity allows you to make decisions with foresight rather than short-term impulse. You begin to see the patterns that lead to success and the pitfalls that slow progress. Over time, this practice shapes a mindset of strategic thinking, adaptability, and resilience. It ensures that every choice moves you closer to your goals and that your growth is guided by conscious, informed leadership. Consistently reviewing progress and adjusting decisions turns life into a process of intentional development. You stop moving aimlessly, stop repeating errors unconsciously, and stop relying solely on luck or external guidance. Instead, you cultivate awareness, make improvements based on real outcomes, and align your actions with your vision. This practice is not just a method, it is a principle of self-leadership. When applied faithfully, it allows you to navigate life with clarity, refine your path continuously, and maximize your potential. The discipline of reflection and adjustment ensures that every choice strengthens your direction, every action contributes to growth, and success follows naturally as a result of conscious, deliberate decision-making.